Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about my Seeker Mine build. I've fully perfected it. It's got a lot of versatility, and I'm sorry if this video drags on a little bit longer, but this is actually a fairly complex build that took a lot, it takes a lot to go into it. And once used, there's a lot of different mechanics that are going to stack on top of each other to create something that really has, in my eyes, unlimited potential as long as the user is aware of their timing, is aware of their positioning, etc. And it's going to have a lot of value, and I would be really interested to see some of the things that people can do with this build once they've used it in the dark zone. Players that have better situational awareness than I do. But let's jump right into it. I'm going to talk about all of my gear, then the mods in my gear, then my weapons, then the mods on my weapons, then my skills, and then my talents, and then I'll kick it over some gameplay, and I will try to keep it as streamlined and fast as possible. So the first thing to know is I'm running 4-piece tack. Very important to do this. This is non-negotiable for the build as a whole. 10% skill haste, very good. 10% skill power is even better because I have already very high skill power based on my electronics. And then the 4-piece bonus, best used in a group. Every bullet your group hits enemies with adds 0.2% skill power to you for a max of 30% bonus. Bonus disappears after 10 seconds of not being updated or after 10 seconds at full power. This means essentially that you're going to be like a skill weaver type class. You're going to have increased efficiency for short periods of time, and it's important to use your heal and your offensive skills during that time effectively. Now this mask is a stamina mask, and it has health as the major attribute. That is interchangeable, the major attribute here. Someone else could run something else if they wanted to, but I use it for the toughness. I definitely want to maintain over 200,000 toughness before bonus mitigation from my skills, my talents, etc. As you can see, my main stats: firearms 3100, stamina 3000, electronics 5500. This is because I didn't want to spec specifically into one area. I wanted to have a hybrid style of gameplay, and I'll talk more to that in a couple minutes about the Liberator, etc. But this achieves that very, very well. Moving on to my knee pads, I have high electronics knee pads. Very important to roll armor here. You're going to want to roll armor on your knee pads, on your holster, on your backpack, and on your chest piece. Again, that's non-negotiable for survivability in the dark zone. That's something essential that everybody's going to be doing, and it's very important to do it on this build as well. However, if you really want to go for something else, go for it. Just let me know how it turned out, and I've found best results from using armor. For minor attributes, shock resistance, burn resistance, those are really good. A lot of people are running shotgun shock turret or Firecrest 4-piece or 3-piece with the flame turret. So these two resistances as minor attributes are going to be very, very crucial for PvP. Moving on to my holster, it's pretty one-dimensional. You want high rolls across the board. I could easily achieve another 100 electronics, which would boost the skill power even further. So people are going to have increased yield from this build over what I have in certain situations, but it's important to roll armor as a major attribute, and other than that, holsters are very flat one-dimensional items. Moving on to my Attack Authority gloves. These are quite interesting. They're actually legacy gloves. They're from before patch 1.4 launch, which means they have a bonus of 3% Seeker Mine damage on the skill attribute side of things, which isn't going to be attainable anymore. A lot of players may not have these, which is totally fine. The build will still perform. I promise you, it's only 3%. But some players may actually have more of these and other attack pieces with Seeker Mine damage. And if that's the case, you're actually going to be able to have increased yield from this and even more damage output. I would prefer assault rifle damage over marksman rifle damage, and I would definitely prefer critical hit damage over damage to elites, considering this is best spec'd out for PvP or utility in PvE. And this build can also easily double as a healer. All you have to do is switch out the support station with immunizer for your Seeker Mine, but I'll talk more to that in a second. Moving on to my two high-end pieces, I have a specialized backpack. Now, currently, it's more important to run specialized. It's an electronics backpack, helping me achieve that 5,500 electronics for the high base skill power. And 200% of firearms and stamina to skill power is added from the talent itself. Firearms is at 3,100, stamina is at 3,000, so about 6,000 between the two of them, and 200% of that is 12,000. So it's an easy, unconditional 12,000 skill power tacked on to what I already have. And it's active at all times. My major attribute is skill power. That could be re-rolled to armor. Unfortunately, I was not able to do that, but it is critical to roll that in all other circumstances. This build is almost completely min-maxed. I shouldn't actually say it's fully min-maxed. I get a few, stat points here and there, and that should be armor, and you'll lose about 10,000 skill power if that's the case. But once I do have the electronics to make up for that 9,000 skill power, I will find, a backpack that has switched that over. Now, another thing to note is it's very important to run specialized currently over inventive. Inventive is broken. Surprise, surprise, it's a glitch. Inventive does not reactivate after you've gone below max health most of the time. Sometimes it does. I really haven't figured out how to get it to reactivate other than unequipping and re-equipping it, which means if you're fighting players and you at any point go below max health, you're most likely not going to have your 15% bonus skill power once you achieve full health again. Now, this is really important to note because if it were to work properly, this would be exactly what you're going to run in all circumstances, because you're going to be popping your booster shot into overheal very, very frequently, and thus operating at max health with 15% bonus skill power during that duration. And that's important because on top of the already high skill power bonus, if I were to have an identical backpack to the one that I have, instead of gaining about 12,000 skill power from that talent, I would actually gain closer to 30,000, which is really, really, really important to note. This also has armor, so it would be a better one, and I really would hope that they would, fix Inventive in the near future, because it would add a lot of utility to the build itself. So now moving on to your chest piece. It's very important to roll armor. Again, essential to get as much armor as possible. And it has vigorous. Now, overheal to all healing skills. This means you can run booster shot over your overdose skill and still gain a full overheal. Based on your skill power, you're going to heal from 0 to 100 every time you pop it, which is where your survivability comes from. It's also a electronics chest piece, which allows me to achieve the 5500 in that main stat. Moving on to my weapons. Actually, really quickly talking about the mods, every single mod in my gear is prototype firearms mod with armor. Now that's essential because that's allowing me to unlock the 3100 firearms required to open up my gun skills. So 3100 firearms allows me to unlock both competent and dominant, I believe, and make sure that all my liberator talents are active, which also augment skills. That also gives me a lot of bonus armor and increases my mitigation up to something competitive, which I would, require personally to be over 50%. You definitely want over 50% armor mitigation. So every single one is a firearms mod with armor, allowing me to achieve what I want to achieve in those stat categories. And then all of my performance mods are 3.5% Seeker Mine damage. Now, it may take some time to find these, but I would advise everyone scouting out the Dark Zone vendors, because one of them currently is selling it. I think it's at West 39th Street. But there will always be an ample amount of opportunities to get Seeker Mine damage or whatever specific performance mod type that you want. So 4 of those on top of each other is going to add bonus damage to your Seeker Mine, which is what the build really revolves around. Now moving on to my weapons, I have an M44 carbine, not very good. Not something I'm going to be using very often at all. Has proficient, deadly, and talented. Talented is the important one. So when I am using my secondary from range, if I kill the target, I get a bonus of 15% skill power for 20 seconds. That means about 30,000 skill power for 20 seconds. Puts me well up to above 230,000. And that's a huge, huge bonus. Now moving on to my Liberator. That's all I'm going to talk about for the M44 carbine. You can basically use whatever you want in your secondary, but that's why I have that. The Liberator is the main component of this build. So looking at the base damage, it's not that high. It's not as high as any other DPS build for sure. They're up around 15,000. But it has competent, which means 10% bonus damage when using a skill, and I use my skills very frequently. Dominant, every kill performed while your signature skill is active reduces the cooldown of your other skills by 10%. And since I'm going to be using the defensive signature, Survivor Link, and then killing targets during that duration, I'm actually going to proc this and get some utility out of it. And that's why I needed the 3100 firearms to unlock it. And then talented. This is the most important one, and that's why I picked the Liberator. For a variety of reasons, but this in particular, killing a target with this weapon, again, increases skill power by 15% for 20 seconds. I'm going to be using this all the time, killing NPCs. There's a lot of NPCs that are very easy to take down in the Dark Zone, so I'm going to be proccing talented nearly 100% of the time. Whenever I feel like activating it, I can do that. Another reason why is the RPM 850 plus 48, so almost 900 RPM, is going to help me stack my attack bonus extremely efficiently. So that's why I'm using that weapon in particular. Now, there is one thing to note after I talk about the mods. I go for stability because of the high RPM. Stability is very important. I go for reload speed because I want to be pumping out bullets constantly to get my attack bonus as high as possible, as fast as possible. I want magazine size so I can keep going. 64 bullets in my magazine in particular, and rate of fire on that. And then I have on the scope headshot damage, critical hit damage, and critical hit chance, so that I can hopefully start to get those headshots and trade with DPS builds in certain select circumstances. Now, if you don't have the firearms to activate your 229 Liberator, or if you don't have the Phoenix credits to buy it, just to make sure everyone knows, the special equipment vendor right here sells the Liberator at 229, which is what requires 3100 in the firearms category to activate the talent on. You can then go to the crafting station and make yourself a legacy one if you were playing back in the days where, the Liberator blueprint was valuable. So you can go here to that's the recalibration station. What am I doing? You can craft a 182 Liberator right over here at the crafting station. So go here, and then there it is, down a little bit, 182 Liberator. It requires significantly less main stats. It actually requires less than the number of main stats that you're gonna have just from having all 229 gear. So you're guaranteed to unlock all the weapon talents. The only thing is it lacks in the base damage category. But other than that, it's not really gonna affect your build in a bad way, so that's a definite viable option. So now talking about my skills and then my talents, looking at my skills and my abilities, I have booster shot with my regular heal, that's the mod. My self heal is 120, my ally heal is 120. Now, since my skill power is going to fluctuate between 200,000 and 300,000 in a very fluid fashion, that's actually going to go up significantly during any PvP engagement. This is actually the minimum that I will ever have for self and ally heal during a fight, and that's important to note as well. The second skill you're going to run is Seeker Mine with the cluster mod. Explosion damage 77,000. Again, this is the minimum that damage per Seeker fragment that you're going to have in an engagement. It's the difference between being able to kill one player no problem at minimum efficiency and being able to kill multiple players at max efficiency no problem, just from one skill. So it's a very, very fun build. Now let's talk about the talents, and these are one of the most important things. So first off, you're going to want to run critical save. This is interchangeable with other things for some people that really don't want to be running it, but I don't see why anyone would think that. Using a medkit during low health to increase damage resistance by 40%. This is going to contribute to how your build has survivability, to how tanky you can become. And it's actually reflected on the meter now, so a lot of people are going to see value from this. I do believe it's graphically bugged right now and doesn't show up under your bar, but I also have been informed by some very reliable sources that it does still work, though I haven't done the actual testing myself. So don't take that to the bank just yet. Do your own research. However, I do believe that it's still working. And if it is, that's a very important talent to run. Moving on to Strike Back, since you will be achieving low health and then popping your booster shot to get the bonus mitigation from that, as well as the full overheal from 0 back to 100, you're going to be getting that bonus cooldown reduction, which means faster Seeker Mines, which means more booster shots, which means more damage and more mitigation. All these mechanics stack very well together. So that's an important one. I would say that that's integral to the build. Then you're also going to want to run Demolition Expert. Kill a hostile with an explosion to increase explosion damage by 20% for 15 seconds. So not only is your skill power going to fluctuate between 200,000 and 300,000, you're also going to fluctuate between having and not having 20% bonus damage on your Seeker Mines detonating, and to couple with that, it's very easy to actually get a kill with the Seeker Mines. All you have to do is drop your Seeker Mine, use your gun DPS because you just triggered, competent to get more weapon DPS, get an NPC low, which there's plenty of them that have not very much health, and then let the Seeker Mine get the final killing blow. Very easy to trigger Demolition Expert. Another thing is that you're going to be using Chain Reaction. Damage multiple hostiles with an explosion to apply 20% more damage from the blast. So if you stack all of these different mechanisms on top of each other, you're going to achieve well over 120,000 damage per Seeker Mine fragment. Now, Chain Reaction is very hard to detonate with Seeker Mines because oftentimes enemies aren't that close together, but when it does detonate, and when you do have something, either one of these bonuses procced, you're going to see huge amounts of bonus damage, and you're going to go from just downing a couple players to killing everyone that, it touches these Seeker Mines. It's very hard to do. Again, there's a lot of, skill and timing that goes into using this build, but it can be done if used properly. Now, moving on, I'm going to throw it to some gameplay and talk about the mechanics of it for a little bit, but hopefully that was an accurate description of everything that you need that goes into the build, and hopefully this is an accurate, showcase in a couple seconds here of what it can and can't do, and some of the ways that I use it, even though I know that this is not the optimal way to use it. I'm sure that some people will have greater results after building this and taking it into the Dark Zone. Okay, so here we are. I am solo in this gameplay footage for now, and I'm going to try and fight a couple players and demonstrate how it works. When you're using this build, like I said, as soon as you start to land bullets, your skill power increases. As soon as you kill a target, your skill power increases. Were you to be using Inventive, which ideally in a fully min-max version, once they fix the glitches, you would be gaining bonus skill power every time you're in your overheal. And in the end, you'd be extremely strong. So now, while you have your signature active, you're going to get bonus cooldown reduction. You can face trade after proccing things like booster shot because of the bonus mitigation and the bonus damage overall, weapon DPS. And it's going to allow you to trade with players that aren't going to be expecting it, and also to bait players into a face trade in which your Seeker Mine is already on the ground. That's probably the most valuable thing to be doing, and the most valuable and reliable way to beat enemy shotgunners. Is you bait them into a face trade right after you've popped a booster shot and have a full overheal, because you will have enough tankiness, enough survivability to mitigate at least one of those shots. And during the time that that one shot is fired and they scope in on the next, since they are aiming down sights, and since they do have to stop running as quickly as they could be during that time, your Seeker Mine will detonate on top of them for full radial damage. And what that means is not only a stagger, which means they cannot fire back anymore while you're doing more additional weapon DPS to them, but also a bleed, which will mess up, their utility and their ability to run around in circles. And it will, in the end, make you extremely strong. So as you can see there, I was actually at 261,000 skill power. I was up well over 200,000 on the toughness meter. And my DPS was significantly higher as well because I had just popped a booster shot, which gives me bonuses to both offensive and defensive capabilities. And I had also stacked up some tack bonuses and killed the target and proc talented. So I was achieving, as a base level, competitive stats and the ability to kill most players. And then at peak efficiency, after you've stacked all the bonuses and snapshotted everything, the ability to kill multiple players with no hassle at all. One thing to note though, I guess shotguns are still quite strong. Enemy alpha bridge builds using assault rifles, etc. are still quite strong. So you can be killed if you are not using your bonuses properly. You're going to see that you are very squishy. 200,000 toughness, and the fact that I have the lack of armor on the backpack means that I can get dominated if I don't time things properly. In the interest of, transparency, I do get destroyed in a couple seconds here. Essentially one-shotted because I have low toughness. I don't have my bonuses active at the right time. And this player in particular is using an M870. So it is very important, again, to be conscious of that, to be using your skills at the right time during your full 30% tack bonus, to be making sure that you have your booster shot for when you need to trade, and make sure that your Seeker Mine is on the ground before you actually are trading. If you do that, you will actually then win the trades, and you'll have a really, really fun time using this build. Again, it's very effective in a team composition because all you have to do is switch out your Seeker Mine for a support station, and the build goes from being offensive and having burst capabilities to being defensive and being able to keep your entire squad alive almost indefinitely. You can heal them from 0 to 100 with your booster shot, give them all the extra bonuses on that, as well as put down your support station with immunizer healing for well over 9,000 per second to the entire squad. It has a decent amount of health, so an enemy player, maybe they're using an assault rifle or a shotgun, will be able to go up and shoot that support station multiple times and not kill it, which then allows your other players, the other ones on your team, to headshot or lay down significant damage on that player while they are stagnant shooting your support station. This is specifically geared towards console. As you can see right there was the shot. I am squishy if I don't have my bonuses. It is very hard for me to tackle multiple players at once if I don't time things correctly. And the build is not invincible, nor is it, some super offensive godlike build where you can kill every single player you see. But with the right timing and with the right use of the mechanical advantages that you have, you will destroy everyone in your path, and it is really, really fun to do. So right here, someone tries to attack me. I was trying to get footage for a while. There's some guys that were clearly, just going after me maliciously, but it's a straight 1v1. And despite the fact that some of these Seeker Mines didn't detonate properly, I'm able to trade with him, and he really honestly never had a chance. Once the Seeker balls are on the ground, he has to run. If he stops running, if he at any point allows them to detonate on top of him, then he will die. So he has to run, which means he can't be dealing damage to me. This build is hyper effective in 1v1 scenarios. Super, super effective and really fun to use. In this situation, it's very good for running away from rogues. You can drop a grenade, you can do things like that. If people are chasing you, trying to grief you, trying to make your experience worse, use a build like this. Drop your Seeker Mines at the right time. Your gun DPS is competitive. You can detonate the Seeker balls. I did drop 2 of them here, but I was unable to rifle butt more than 1. I did drop both of them though in a 3v1 scenario. They were not expecting it. It was really fun to do. And I'm sure other people will use this build even better than I just did and just showcased. This is a situation where I have a teammate. We're going to go up for a 2v2. My teammate actually doesn't even have a heal. That's how powerful your booster shot heal can be if used properly in a team scenario. He doesn't have a heal. He's using only offensive skills, such as both his Seeker Mine and his Flame Turret. Paired with my Seeker Mine means that we have a lot of staggers, a lot of bleeds, a lot of burst damage. We don't really have to monitor them. We can drop them on the ground and then focus on weapon DPS. And we both have relevant DPS because of the different weapon skills that we have, such as Competent and such as Booster Shot. Overall, I get really excited about this build because I think it's fantastic. I think it's been well crafted. I think there's a lot of mechanics that synergize so very well. And I can't wait to be using this more on stream, in the Dark Zone, etc. We definitely dominated that 2v2 right there. So that's gonna about wrap it up. We've got a couple more minutes of gameplay here, but thank you so much for watching, guys. If you want to support the channel, please check us out and at the links below. We have a very good community growing out of this game and out of gaming as a whole, and you guys are welcome to join. As you can see, really quickly turned around, dropped in. They were all chasing me. This is where it excels. They were not expecting that, and it felt really, really good. So that's gonna wrap it up, guys. Thank you for watching again, and as always, have a nice day.